Hello babes, welcome to my channel for a second time and for a second look. This time I'm going to do a pink makeup and I'm going to tell you how you can get away with not paying rent. Alright, let's go! My name is Clementine and I'm very hungover. Okay, no. My name is Clementine and I organize with a group called Rent Strike. We're an activist group usually organizing around campuses for rent cuts and better living conditions on campus. Let's get started with foundation and why all landlords are bastards. So as per usual, I prepped my face with simple face wash, some light moisturizer, and I'm going to put on primer and also some correcting concealer, some concealer, and a foundation. Yeah. Guys, renting in London has got me stressed out. Also, have you guys seen this? I am 100% convinced that landlords are the #1 cause of zits in London. Listen, someone should do a tutorial about removing dark circles under your eyes that would go something like, oh yeah, apply a load of concealer and also abolish rent. Honestly, it does wonders for your skin. Oh wait, that's my channel. Okay, no, for real though, story time. I haven't been sleeping very well in this house and it's been like ages. The main reason is because until a while ago I didn't have blackout sheets, blackout curtains in my room, and for a very long time I begged my landlord to buy some for me just so that I could, sleep. And the last time I saw him he was like, oh yeah, sure, okay, I'll get you some, it's totally fair. I asked him if I could get some dark color, possibly like dark purple to go with my bed. He was like, yeah, sure, like shaking his head, completely fine with it. And then I come back when like a week later into my room and I have been given lime green curtains. Lime green. Not only the most disgusting color ever, but also completely useless for blocking out lights. Ugh. Friends, this is why landlords are spiteful little creatures that should not exist. Snakes. For real though, if you think about what landlords do, they just sit on their asses and collect the money that we've been making all month. Literal parasites. Literal parasites. Guys, if we didn't have rich people getting richer off our backs, I can assure you that everyone would be better off. And when I say that all landlords are bastards, I don't mean that they're all like, spiteful little c***s like the one that I have. What I mean is they have very different interests to us, right? Their interest is exploiting us for as much money as they can get off us, and then our interests are completely contradictory because we don't want that to happen. I don't tend to apply concealer like right under my eyes because I cannot somehow not get it to crease. So yeah, I've stopped trying. It looks worse when it's around that area than if you can just see my dark circles, so I'm not touching it anymore. Alright, pressed powder. That's a novelty for me. Let's see how that works. All this to say that you're very justified for having a grudge against your landlords. And this is especially true because in the recent years, basically, tenants have been gaining less and less power over their landlords, so less and less rights when it comes to renting, less and less power to decide how much rent is fixed or how much it goes up, and landlords have been reclaiming more and more basically power over our lives and the power to exploit us with impunity. You gotta glow. Also, if you have one of these beauty blenders, make sure that you wet them beforehand. I've made this mistake for years, and I only learned recently that they have to be basically a little bit moist. So run it under water and then press it very hard with your hands. It makes them much softer and much more like, and it brings a little bit more moisture, you know, which is necessary if you don't want to have a cakey face. And I'm gonna add a tad more of that highlighter, just a little bit of powder over the creamed highlighter that I used before, just to give that extra shine, you know? So in my previous video I talked about the housing system in general, especially with universities, and from that video I concluded that basically the housing system is f***ed. Alright, but what of it? What do we do? Aha! Well, here's where rent strikes come in. Alright, foundation it's done. Let's move to eyebrows. Let's move on to eyebrows and the principles of rent strikes. So firstly, a strike is usually understood as a refusal to take part. Did you see that? What? Okay. Let's just get back to it. So yeah, so as I was saying, a strike is usually understood as the refusal to participate in any given activity. It's been used by mainly workers all around the world and for literal millennia as a tactic to reclaim power from their bosses. So basically using it as a way to bargain for better pay and better working conditions. And a rent strike specifically is basically withholding your rent from your landlord until certain demands are met. And you would have guessed that those demands most of the time are going to be around cutting the rent or fixing certain problems in the house or giving you better treatment. But rent strikes have also been used as a political tactic for other things. So like you do a rent strike and you have demands around better education or, I don't know, solidarity with another campaign, basically. And just as working strikes have been around forever, rent strikes have also been around forever. I was actually just reading the other day that there was a massive wave of rent strikes happening in medieval Europe. So loads and loads of peasants from all across Europe basically just refused to pay their rents for months and months on end. It's a really effective tactic because unlike petitions or other forms of direct action, you start from two assumptions. The first is, as I said before, your landlord or your boss or your husband or anyone in a position of power towards you is going to have very, very different interests from you. They want to make as much money out of you as possible, and you want to live your life without being exploited for your labor or your money. Strange, huh? But in terms of tactics, this does mean something. It means that you cannot, for systemic reasons, rely on their generosity or willingness to give you a raise or better living conditions on their own because it is not in their interest. No, you have to put them in a position where it's more advantageous for them to give you whatever you want than to continue treating you the way that they do. The second assumption is that these people fundamentally depend on you, on your labor, on your money for their continued existence. So to survive, basically. You know, people often praise bosses and landlords for like giving people jobs or giving people homes, but if you think about it, they're not the ones creating the wealth. They're not the ones like creating the money that is needed to sustain this economy or the society in general. They're not the ones performing the labor, basically. It's the workers and it's the tenants, and they need us much more than we need them because you create whatever sustains them, because they're parasites. So refusing to give them that puts them in a really, really awful position where that vulnerability is revealed. Ugh, why am I so bad at this? Okay, pretty decent. We can move on, I think. Okay, pink eyes and the legality of rent strikes. Let's go. So I'm going to be using this beautiful pink palette, and I'm going to be using this one, this one, this one, no, this one, and this one. I'm going to try blending, which, you know, is a thing, apparently. So yeah, wish me luck. I'm mainly concerned with the legality of rent strikes in the university sector because that's what I know, that's where I organize. Although rent strikes in the private sector are also obviously possible, they're just harder to organize. And you will see why in a second. So I'm starting off with the lightest base. It's gonna be the blending base, and I just use a bit of a large brush just to kind of dab that in a little bit, you know, take it out to the sides a little tiny bit, but I don't want to extend it too far. So as I said before, people in this country have less rights in housing as well as everywhere else, to be honest, but specifically here for housing. And usually housing regulations is geared towards giving more power to landlords. So until recently, and due to the power of really amazing activists in Generation Rent UK or in London Renters Union, Section 21, which is the right of landlords to give out no-fault evictions, which is basically evicting you for no good reason. That has been recently more or less abolished. It's not a full-on victory just yet, but it's a very good partial victory. But apart from this amazing, again, exception, tenant rights in the UK are pretty awful. What does this mean for us? Well, it means that rent strikes are technically illegal. I mean, if you don't pay your rent, your landlord has grounds to evict you. Yeah, legally. Aha! But this is where the strength in numbers comes in. So if one person refuses to pay their rent, evicted immediately. If 100 people refuse to pay their rent to the same landlord, then it's much more expensive for them to try and evict everyone than to just accept the rent cuts that they're demanding. And this is why rent strikes have been so successful and much less dangerous than they're portrayed to be. So technically illegal, yes, but definitely legitimate, also yes. By the way, I'm putting the darker shade of pink right in the crease of the eye and then blending it out a little bit on the middle of my eye, like so. But I don't want to extend it too far just yet. And I do want to stress that rent strikes are definitely effective tactics. I mean, there's loads of examples out there from throughout the ages, but I think that the most recent one that I could like... Oh, Jesus fucking Christ. It's not a good day. Not a good day. There's definitely loads of examples out there, but I think that the one that's most interesting to us now is probably the rent strike that happened back in 2015 in UCL that I talked about in my previous video, where 1,000 students went on rent strike and won over £1 million in compensation plus £350,000 put in bursaries for low-income students, which is massive. And since then, loads of universities, including like Sussex, Goldsmiths, even Bristol this year, have taken on this idea. So this year in Bristol, there's about 150 people on rent strike, and they cut rent for about 400 people already. And they're not even done yet. Right now I'm taking a tiny, tiny brush and I'm gonna put in the light metallic shade, also right in the crease. And then I'm gonna go right in with the dark metallic shade. Again, just blending it through and putting it really right in the crease, but I also kind of want to extend it out today. And then yeah, going back in with another shade and just, you know, working my way through it basically. And yeah, as I said before, it's much easier to organize with universities because obviously your university is going to be a landlord for about thousands of people. So there's much more financial pressure that you can put on it. Another really good thing about organizing within universities is that they fundamentally depend so much on their image. And they technically have a duty of care towards their students. So any news about how students are desperate enough to go on rent strike will just make the university look so bad. So bad. For private housing, it's much easier to organize if you're part of a tenant union. So if you're keen to start organizing, you should definitely consider joining London Renters Union or one of the local Acorn branches. That they have been doing really amazing work, just winning fight after fight after fight. And the final touches, which is a little tiny bit of the light metallic shade on the crease there of my eye. It's not a crease, is it? No, it has another name. I don't know what the name is. The corner of my eye, yeah. And then again, also just kind of blending it in with the light shade around it. Okay, I'm just gonna put on a little bit of mascara and then my eyes will be done. Okay, pink lips and how to actually go on a rent strike. So I'm gonna line my lips, put on some lipstick, and then put on a little tiny bit of gloss, just for that extra shine. So as I said, as a group we organize mainly with first years who live in halls, but again, this is useful information for anyone really. Wow. Honestly, building collective power takes time, but it is worth it. And it's gratifying and empowering. Snaps for empowerment! Okay, you want to start organizing right when uni starts off in September so that you can just give yourself a lot of time. Most of the time students will be giving out their rent in 3 installments. The first in the first semester, the second beginning of January, and the third around April. So if you start organizing in September, you're going to be organizing for a second semester or third semester rent strike. You first probably want to start a cut the rent group or join an already existing one, just to like get some people together and organize. So what we generally do is basically for a semester organize to decide what our demands are going to be towards the university, maybe do a little bit of research on rent so that you can like throw stats at them basically, and mainly go door to door and yeah, talk to people. And when you talk to them, you kind of want to collect their contact details, tell them about rent strikes, tell them about how organizing goes, and get at least 100 names signed out. So when you hit that number and the rent installment is due, basically just contact those people again. And yeah, make sure you all know how to cancel any direct debits to your landlords. But yeah, then you just all go on rent strike together, you all stop paying rent together, and then you give the university your demands, and then you wait for them to respond, and usually there's going to be like negotiation processes or some sort of escalation on your part if the university refuses to respond to you. Yeah, but we can talk about that troubleshooting later. Also, if you ask them in advance, your university student union will also be quite happy to just create another bank account where people can put their rent money in during the strike, just to make your campaign look more legitimate and less like, you know, people just not paying rent and it actually looking like, no, this is a legitimate political campaign. And it also guarantees that you'll be able to avoid debt collectors later on. So technically you're not keeping the money that you should have paid on rent. You can't, you know, spend it somewhere else. It's just a bargaining chip that you will at some point give back to your landlord. But then again, you don't pay as much because you'll, you know, probably get a rent cut of some sort or compensation. And that could mean hundreds of pounds off your rental bill, thousands if you play it right. Now, I'm not gonna lie, it's very likely that strikers are gonna be receiving angry and threatening letters when they stop paying their rent. But as I said, there's so much strength in numbers. It's insane. If you help each other out, reassure each other, remember that they can't all evict you. You'll realize that at the end of the day, you've got the upper hand. And to put more pressure on the university in the meantime, you can call them out in the press, stand outside management offices. Some of us even went to a private accommodation provider with tents and just set up camp there. Why not? Be creative. The payoff is worth it. I mean, of course, there's a little bit more to this than that to be successful. It's a full-on campaign, people have to commit to it, and you've got to know your resources. That's why we've made a rent strike just for you, where we've collected all of the experiences, troubleshootings that we've had in the past several years on rentstrike.org, and all of it is how to fight and win your campaigns. Have a look at it. Have several looks at it. Message our Facebook, Twitter, Instagram if ever you have any questions. I'll even leave comments in the comment section to me if you want. I'll respond to all of your questions. The ones you knew you had and the ones you never knew you had. Because listen, at the end of the day, rent strikes do more than cutting the rent. They show us that we deserve to live in decent housing and with affordable rent. We deserve it. Yes. I almost forgot. We're having a rent strike weekender in London in July. If you come around from the 13th to 14th of July, you'll get to meet loads of activists from across the country. We're putting on workshops and trainings for anyone new or anyone wanting to start a housing campaign and win it. And we're also bringing in loads of people from cooperatives, local tenant unions, anti-gentrification campaigns, who do really, really amazing work. Listen, we've got free registration, free accommodation, free food provided. Oh, and we have free childcare as well. And your travels can be subsidized. We're even hosting a strike night social. That's how keen we are. Literally, you have zero excuses not to attend. But if you can't make it, which, fair enough, but you're missing out. You can help us fund it and make it happen by donating on the link in the description box below. We're not funded by any organization, so we don't really have any money. So any donation, big or small, is just, we're so grateful for it. All right, I am done. You have this beautiful pink look and also way to gain collective power back from your landlords. You're welcome. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel, click the little bell so that you have a notification every time I upload a new video, which, is a good thing. And I will be making more of these videos soon. If you have any questions about the look, about the politics, just ask them in the comments below. Again, I'm so looking forward to all your questions and to making this discussion happen, and yeah, let's see where this goes. I really want to know if you've been convinced by this, if you would ever be capable of doing a rent strike, and whatever questions that you have around it. I am your gal. And I will leave you with the promo video for our rent strike weekender.